Alrighty, welcome out to another episode of Time with Uncle Sam. It makes it sound official, but this is just two guys in order in a stupid cell phone video, trying to have something somewhat professional. Sitting here with Steve Gemmer running for county council, and appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. And you're not in a situation where you're like retired and you have all the time in the world to run for office, do you?
No, not at all.
So what's a normal work day? You start at what time in the morning?
Usually they're about 5:30, between 5 and 5:30 in the morning.
And you usually wrap up around
9, 10 o'clock at night.
So you have like zero time to campaign.
Right.
So this video, we're 9:15 at night, 9:14 at night, starting here. This may be the most amount of time that somebody, or I may be getting with I might be getting the most amount of time with you out of anybody else in this whole primary. So if you're here, I've got a list of questions. We're going to talk. We met how many years ago? I was a little kid. It was a political event my parents were involved with. Yeah. And do you remember the first thing you told me, or that?
Yeah, when you were spewing out all your stuff, and I said, if you want to save your generation, you kill my generation. We are killing you. We are killing you.
You said your number one enemy to your freedom is my generation. They spent all your money and have devalued everything you have. And I was like a 16-year-old kid, or I think I was maybe that age. And then I didn't see you again for 10 years, 15 years.
Probably, yeah.
I think my bucket truck broke.
Yeah.
It was a freezing day.
Yeah.
And you own GEI Fluid Power, correct?
GEI Fluid Power, yep.
In Milan.
Milan, Indiana.
And I think my brother, we're out on Salem Ridge in Ohio County. And I'd gotten water or something in one of my hydraulic filters.
Right.
And it froze up, and we started running it. It was a cold day. We had to get in there when the ground was frozen. It was a hillside, and so it's like February, I think, and drove the truck out there. You got us in, and we started talking politics, and we're underneath my International 4700, trying to figure out all these parts that don't fit, and you got me back on the road. And so we started talking politics again. I think I reached out to you when I ran for Senate.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you did.
And then we've talked about some other things, and here you are running. And did you ever think, you ever plan on getting involved in politics?
My whole life, I told people, they say, you ought to get in politics. You ought to get in politics. I said, no way. I can't do that. I can't deal with people that are so hypocritical. It don't work for me. And I said, I would rather be on the outside going and yelling at them and signing out what they're doing. Well, you saw what happened down the courthouse the other day.
Yeah. Well, we were standing outside, and you said, I don't know who the older guy was that was there, and he said, you see how ticked off I am? Look, I'm running for office. And he just looked like, you're finally running? You must be really unhappy about it.
I've known him for over 30 years.
Things must be really bad for you to want to get involved. So I feel like an accomplished person. I got you to run for office. So I think, I'm somewhat partial. I think that we need people who don't seek the office. I think we need a constituency, and that's part of my complaint with, and I'm guilty of this too. I care about state and federal issues, and I think that's what we've talked about mainly.
Right, absolutely.
We never really talked about county government, so I'm interested for this, and we haven't talked much about your story. So I'm just as excited to listen, even though we've connected politically on issues. There's a lot about you that every time I talk with you, I learn something new, etc. And other than some business connections, and when I ran for Senate, reaching out to you again, and then talking about some of these other things, we've really not had a chance to get to know each other. Why don't you start off with this? Born, raised, childhood, growing up, getting into, you've been a business owner how many years now?
Probably about this business over 25 years.
Okay, so, established life, etc., but growing up years, your background. Are you originally from this area? When we just go ahead and get started?
I'm originally from Northern Kentucky. I grew up in Campbell County, and I lived in Bratton County for quite a few years.
Okay.
And
were your parents transplants there, or are they born and raised?
My parents were born and raised in Campbell County.
Okay.
My mom was in Holland Heights, and my dad grew up in Newport.
Okay.
And my family's scattered through Newport and Holland Heights, Cold Springs, Alexander. All the great
back
places.
Before all the subdevelopments started going in?
Yeah, back when it was a rural area, nice rural area.
Northern Kentucky is not rural anymore.
No, it's not.
It's still beautiful over there. I like the people over there. But
well, actually, the I-275 that comes off of Licking Pike and goes up the hill,
Yeah.
I followed the bulldozer down there in my Jeep when he cut the first pass. And we got from the bottom of the hill, he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I wanted to be the first one to drive down the road." And he laughed.
How old were you? Like a 15-year-old kid or something?
16, 17.
16, okay. Well, there's your name to fame, or your claim to fame.
Claim to fame.
So, growing up, I mean, what'd your parents do? What was home life growing up like?
Well, my dad worked at Walzer's Electric Company, then he worked at Kenner Toy Company. My
Okay.
mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And, basically, Dad worked, and my grandpa had rental property.
Okay.
And so I learned how to work on rental property. And
Okay.
when I was 9 years old, I learned how to crawl underneath crawl spaces and take a torch and keep the rats back and solder pipes. And I'm not exaggerating. When
I know.
cold weather, they're underneath them houses.
Yeah, especially in that area.
Yeah, and
So when did you move out here then?
it's
Or
been,
coming out of high school, did you move right away? Did you,
No,
did you
no,
start
I came
jobs
out of
over
high
there,
school.
business? What did you do coming out of high school?
Actually, when I came out of high school, I actually was in business for myself. We was rehabbing houses
Okay.
all through Cincinnati and different areas.
Is that something you just picked up from your dad? Like
Yeah,
landlord
I
side
mean,
of
I've
stuff?
always worked on houses with my
Okay.
grandpa and my dad, and knew how to fix stuff. And it started out was just repairing houses up over the Vine and stuff, over
Right.
the Rhine, what they call over the Rhine, in Newport, all through Bellevue, Dayton.
Right.
We just repair windows, repair doors, repair
Okay.
whatever needed to be done. We just do it, and did that for a while, and got into rehabbing some houses up in Cincinnati, and rehabbed
Okay.
some houses, and then I went to work for. Let's see, how did we do that? I wound up going to work for Durobag. Well, actually, when I got out of high school, I went to work for Durobag because I went to college for a little while to start, but I still
What
did
did you major in
construction on the
college?
side. Nothing really.
Just
My
gen eds?
mom, to be honest with you, I would have quit high school, but my mom forced me to stay. And when I was a kid, I got grass cutting jobs, and then I was working on farms, and I was making really good money, for a kid.
Right.
I mean, I had one job that paid you $2,000 a year, twice a year. $2,000 for cutting a cemetery by myself twice a year, and that was great. I mean, I'm rich.
Yeah.
So back then that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, just a lot of that, and then I wound up working for a farmer, and then I went to work for a blacktop company when I was 15. I was driving tracks with dump trucks, so I was ready to quit school. My
Did you have your
mom
CDLs back then, or there were no
I
CDLs?
don't know CDLs. I drove tractor trailers when I was 18 without CDLs. We didn't have that.
So you're 15 years old driving 80,000 pounds of asphalt in a truck down the road.
Tracks with dump truck. Yep.
Wow.
From Cincinnati to the airport. Back when they were building all that stuff in the airport, I worked for a blacktop company.
So you have really seen that area grow and develop.
Oh
over the
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Totally
absolutely.
different. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them places I used to hunt on.
Really?
Yeah,
Now they're backyards
They're
and
all-
subdevelopments,
all
etc.
that kind of stuff.
Have you ever served so then you went in, what was so self-employed, first business that you had was flipping houses. What
Yeah.
did you do after that? And you did just high school
Well,
jobs,
after
cutting
that,
grass, working.
I wound up working in a factory. I swore I never would do, and I went to work in a factory. And basically, they hired me because I was working for a plumber. I went to work for a plumber, and I was this close to having my master's license in Kentucky. I was going through all the training,
Right.
through all the schooling, and I had my journeyman's license. And the trouble with I wound up getting married. I had a kid come in, and back then plumbing sounds like a good life, but there's not a lot of money in the wintertime,
Really?
and I needed money.
Plumbing now, I mean, those guys make
Well,
insane money.
yeah. Well, that's today, but back then, I mean, it was we made good money, but in the wintertime, you didn't have a lot of work.
Really?
So I went to work for a factory, and they hired me because they needed some bathrooms fixed, and I wound up fixing bathrooms. Well, then they got a big job from Kenner's, where they were making all these stages, and they knew I knew how to build that kind of stuff, so I built all these stages. Well, then they hired me because they were buying injection molding machines that needed plumbing, which was hydraulics.
Okay.
So they figured since I was a plumber, I'd know how to do that. And that's how I learned it.
So that's how you got into
Yeah,
it. So then you left there and started GEI Fluid Power?
No, actually, when I was working there, it grew, and we had some differences because as they got bigger, the owners, the short version is bean counters came in and told the owners, "Oh, you should be doing this, this, and this." I said, "No, we got to take care of the people
Bean
first."
counters. There's a Kentucky lingo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're all good.
Yeah. But and in the long run, what happened was is we just had a falling out, and there was people trying to hire me forever. So I went to work for a guy, and I worked for him for about 3 or 4 years. And it's kind of a long story, but basically I made more money than anybody in his plant, but I took off more than anybody because I was farming at the time.
Okay.
So I'd take off like the whole month of May and cut up pay, but if they needed me, I'd go to work.
Right.
But I'd work day and night when I was on the road. I was on the road a lot, so during the day I might be training, at night I'd be out doing work, or if I had a job at night and I was training, sometimes we trained at night.
Okay.
I'd find factories that would let me go in and work on during the day, so I made up the difference in time and money. And basically he decided that we were paid a commission.
Okay.
And he said I was making too much money, which I still to this day don't understand, since it was commission. And I wouldn't sign a contract with him. Basically, it was a contract that I could never do this on my own. And
oh wow.
And what was really sad is everybody that we worked together, they all signed for like 1,000, 2,000, and then me and another guy held out, and he signed for 5. My last offer was 20 grand, and I said I ain't signing it, period. Unless you take that clause out. He said, well, I'm going to have to fire you. I said, well, that's great. Do you want me to finish the job I'm on now, or you what? And he goes, oh, what are you working on? I told him. He goes, oh, yeah, can you finish that? Of course, I never got paid for it, but that's how I felt about it. I mean, and what was
so then
fun,
from there, winding up in your own business, that was the transition?
That was the transition, because what happened was it was kind of funny, because that night we got done about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was by myself. And the salesman...
You're fixing a hydraulic machine?
Yeah, I was fixing a big press over in Salem, Indiana. And
press,
a hydraulic press.
Okay.
Okay. And I got it all
factory industrial work.
Factory industrial. And so the salesman was from another company that got us in there, and he said, "I will tell you right now, you and Fred are the only two that I can depend on." I said, "Well, now you gotta go, Fred." I said, "I got fired at 9 o'clock this morning." He goes, "And you finished it?" I go. He says, "You always were that way." He said, "You and Fred are loyal." I didn't even know what I was going to do, but what was funny was my ex-boss called all my customers and told them I was going to retire and go into farming. Well, they knew I couldn't go into farming because there's not that kind of money in farming. And they all called me, offered me jobs. And every one of them said, if you don't work for me and you start your own business, you come and see us, we'll hire you.
So you had your whole list of clientele already ready to go.
Started out. And the biggest decision was, do we want to be incorporated or not incorporated?
Wow.
And that was like a...
How many customers did you start out with then? You got 50, 500?
No, truthfully, I had about 5 total loyal ones. But you got to understand, industrial is different than
right. You're a couple times a month someplace?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what did it take? I mean, were you full-time in business for yourself with 5 customers?
Oh, yeah. But when I started my business, I decided I wanted to... I had a vision that I was going to have a different way than what we did it with my boss, because he wouldn't invest in the company. So I actually had a farm. I was selling back then, before it was a popular thing, I was selling organic beef and organic hogs.
Oh wow.
And my clientele were from Cincinnati, of people who could not eat beef because of all the stuff in them. But mine were organic, pure organic, and they did not have any hormones or nothing. The feed was clean. Before the day of the blood meal, when they had all the blood meal, I wouldn't feed any of that stuff.
Wow.
So I had a great clientele, and it's what built my company. I lived off of that.
So connections through that?
Well, no.
Oh, you were just investing everything back into your business.
Yeah, I could take my business and invest all that money back while I was living off of the farm.
Right. I did the same thing. Lawn care paid my bills, and I lived below my means, and what I made with trees, I'd pay my guys, and the rest of it basically got dumped back into the business.
Exactly, and that's what small businesses have to do.
Right.
And basically, I'd still be farming today if it wasn't for this business, because I can't be both. We're that busy now.
Wow.
You know.
So when you think of the role that government should play in our lives as citizens, what comes to mind? Obviously, there has to be some government. If there's no government, there's anarchy, there's tyrants, there's, you have to have some kind of government. But when I talk to business owners, farmers and business owners are some of the 2 biggest people, and people in manufacturing.
Right.
They are the most quick to complain about, well, there's too much government. what is the appropriate role of government, especially when you're running for county council? When you think about county council, we can talk about the state and the federal, and we'd be here for 5 hours.
Right.
But when you think about county government, you've got a business in Ripley, but you live here in Dearborn.
Right.
So you deal with 2 different counties.
Right.
So you have double the exposure
Right.
that I do because I only know Dearborn County. I don't have businesses or properties in other counties.
Right.
When you think the proper role of county government in your life, or what you want county government to do for you, what comes to mind?
The role of government, especially local government, is for protection, fire protection, ambulance service, and police protection. That's their main role. The second role is roads that they own. Really, that's 90% of all we need them for.
And then some courts, which
Well,
judicial
courts,
branch.
unfortunately, is state run. The state actually pays our courts. So yes, okay, we need local courts, but that's part of protection. That's part of your
Okay.
law enforcement. So if you think about it, the only thing I need a government for is law enforcement. Protect the people's rights,
Keep the peace.
keep the peace. We need our fire protection, obviously,
Right.
and we need our ambulance service is what we need. And then of course we need education, and we need educational system.
But
which-
most of that funding comes to the state
to
too.
the state, and that's one of the problems that we have, but that's a whole nother
Right.
10 hours we could talk about. But for our local government right now, their main concern should be our roads. Their main concern should be actually law enforcement first, should be the main
Well,
concern.
in whatever order, but those
Right.
are some of the
But
items.
that's it, law and order, fire protection, our roads and our EMSs, our ambulances, as I know them.
Okay. As a small business owner, and maybe you could incorporate. Do you don't farm anymore?
I quit farming totally about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
Okay, so include
time
this
has nothing in my head.
as either a farmer or a small business owner. If you had to pick one thing, what's your biggest irritation with government at any level that comes into your life?
Probably the fact that they're always trying to regulate everything. My biggest irritation right now is we don't have workers, and a lot of it has to do is because of our government. When I was a kid, you could work. Okay, I worked at Kenner Toy Company when I was 15 years old on Saturdays, running molding machines. And I ran. I actually drove tracks and dump trucks at 15 years old. Now I'm not saying I should have. Okay, I'm not going there, but I did.
Well, it made you who you are today. So
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I could work for that company at an underage, okay, under 18 as they want
Right.
to make it now, but I probably shouldn't have been driving. But there's a whole story behind that we don't want to go into.
Well, I mean, they used to not have. That just has to do with the time
Right.
and age.
But right now it's like in my business, I can't hire anybody till they're 18, so they have no idea about how this stuff works. When I was teaching, I trained for 20-something years all around the country before Obama days. And I went to all these plants and we were training people. All of a sudden I started seeing this trend of young people coming in the room, had no idea what a tool was. And I'll tell you this quick little story. I'm up in Cleveland one night. I got 40 guys in a room. And I'm telling them how you take an Allen wrench and you can do this with it. And all, there's little tricks in hydraulics, you can use different things. And one guy raised his hand, he goes, well, what if Alan ain't here? I said, well, borrow Charlie's. I thought he was pulling my leg, okay? Well, at the first break, 10 guys came up to me and they said, we have no idea what you're talking about. What is a channel lock? What's a monkey wrench? What's an Allen wrench? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so I had to go out in my truck, get some tools, and they
This is a
never
photo.
got to, they basically were raised without a dad, is what they told me. And somewhere along the line, they worked on a car a little bit and they thought that was cool, and that's where they got into maintenance. But they were learning. And I'm thinking, my lands, I was building crude go-karts when we were 9 and 10 years old. We were welding with coat hangers and cutting torches. I can't even imagine tools, I know.
OSHA was not approving of that. Was
Probably not, but I'm
He's
just
not
saying,
9 years old.
we
Go play a video game. No, son, go get the welder. Go make your
well,
own
we didn't
gold
have
car.
video games. We didn't
Right.
have that. Okay, so you have video games. These kids play video games, and I'm seeing this, and and I've been saying this for years. So by the time they're 18 years old, they're set in their ways and they're lazy. I'm not lazy because they mean to be. They're lazy because basically, they never had to do anything. They don't know how to work with their hands.
Right.
And they, even when they want to, they feel inept, and it's sad. And they're afraid to get dirty. That's the other thing. That's
So
very
over-regulation from the government is your
and
biggest concern?
over-regulation, because why can't a child, let's just put it this way. In my shop, we could have somebody come in at 14, 15, 16 and clean up the shop. While they're cleaning up the shop, they can learn the different things and see things going on.
Right.
How did, when
At
you
least
were
be
young?
familiar with.
Yeah, when I was young, that fascinated me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I love taking things apart.
I
and
always
fixing
irritated
things.
people. If they were working around, I'd go outside and I'd like ask them questions. And
Oh yeah, I was the same way.
they would always say, well, you're in school? And I, yeah, whatever grade. They go, man, enjoy that school. I'd do anything to be back in school. And I'm thinking, I don't know what you're talking about. I'd do
Yeah.
anything to get out and work or just be out and about doing stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I've talked to some other guys that work with me now, and I we'll see the school buses go by or something like, hey, you guys wish you were back in a classroom? And like, heck no.
Yeah.
We want to be out learning. It's there's a cookie cutter form of education in this country that doesn't allow for anything outside the mold. And what it's turning out is not impressive people who can compete on a global stage because they can't help, and they can't even compete and help our small business owners and local business and local industry thrive and compete, because we do compete on a national, state, or even international stage.
What I found that's very interesting, and this started probably 20 years ago, maybe a little longer, all of a sudden everybody had to go to college. And I say, college is not for 80% of the people out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And
I don't know what the
especially
percentage
boys.
is, but-
I'm just, from what I understand and what I've seen in my life, boys need to be active. They need to do things. That's a fact of life. Okay, and if you let them be boys, they get creative.
Right.
Why did our country? I tell people all the time. It's very simple. For thousands of years, man really didn't move very much. When the United States became free is when we went into modern age. Why? Freedom. Freedom, and they could work. Think about it. Do you know, you're like this, do you know what, when the Roman Empire fell, we did not have again until the United States was born? Toilets. Plumbing.
Wow. No, I didn't
The
know.
Roman Empire actually had sewage systems.
But that was the first republic. If there's a video on
Right.
YouTube, it's not mine, it's somebody else I watched years ago, and it's like a 10-minute and 9-second video. It's called Republic versus Democracy. And we play, and people, the federal stage is talking about it. They talk about, hey, we're a democracy. We got to save democracy. It's a threat to democracy. Oh, my most favorite. You're a threat to democracy. I'm like, you're dang right. I'm a threat to democracy.
Exactly.
Democracy is dangerous.
Yes.
You go back and you listen to what the founding fathers talked about democracy. They use words like they are violent in their deaths.
Yeah.
Democracies are dangerous. They're unstable forms of government. And the whole video comes down to you either have oligarchy or you have a republic. And the
Right.
republic, and they talk about Rome was the first true republic.
Right.
And we modeled that after where the people control the government, but it's rule of law.
And what happened to Rome?
Uh,
Suddenly the government controlled the people.
yes. And they did it through welfare programs and
Right,
other
exactly.
things, and then getting too big and go messing with other countries, and then started collapsing. And Hadrian's Wall. My parents lived in England. I was born there, and U.S. citizen by birth. But my dad was doing school over there, international work, etc. And I remember going back, and part of Hadrian's Wall is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was no different than a state park. We're just out hiking, whatever. Oh, big slabs of granite or limestone or what limestone, whatever the roll,
Yeah.
the rock substance was. But you're just walking the historic thing, going around playing in the ditch. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
But you come back and you watch some videos or you watch some of the education of what's happened with Rome. It absolutely comes back to a republic.
And see, it starts at the local, because what I'm finding out now that I'm getting more involved with the local politics, and I kick myself for not thinking this earlier, they start controlling things that they shouldn't be controlling. So instead of worrying about EMS, we worry about building sidewalks, because the sidewalks is only 5 foot and they want to make it 8 foot. Okay, and there's a lot of money that is wasted away. I found out today that we bought a brand new 2024 Ford Escort for the dog warden. A brand new 2024 Ford Escort, and it's being fitted up right now with the cages. And we were in the middle of buying a brand new car for the K9 unit. And I said, well, couldn't we took the K9 unit's old car and gave it to the dog warden? Because, I mean, how often does the dog warden really go out in the car? I'm just, I don't know, but, and this is the thing is, they don't pay attention to our money. And so the government.
Why do you think that is? And I'm not just don't make this about Dearborn County, but is that a general thing across all counties?
Yes, I got the same problem in Ripley County. I've learned over the years. I was told one time when you go and complain and you make them drop your tax base, they will make it up somewhere else. I said no. When I don't have a customer paying me, I have to reorganize.
Right.
That ain't how they do it, because it's like for some reason they just think it's not real money.
So do you think part of the problem is there's not enough small business owners involved in local government?
I think part of the problem is not enough small business, and I think that part of the problem is even as a people, we work so much, we assume they're doing a good job, and when we find out, we don't really think about it hard enough. Is be the best way to say it.
I was trimming a tree. This is a year ago, out by like 5 minutes from your shop, and in Milan, and I was talking to one of the guys working with me, and we've got these $500 safety helmets with ear protection, eye protection. They're all mic'd up, and I got a Cena Bluetooth, which is like a motorcycle brand. Sure. Yeah, so it clips to the back, so we can have like 12. I think it's up to 12 guys can be talking, just like we are here. Except you can have really loud equipment running, etc. I'm 50 feet up in a tree, trim it, with a bucket truck, and then we got guys working on the ground. And one of the guys I was talking with, I said, "Jake, does that make any sense?" He goes, "Sam, doesn't have to make sense if you don't think about it."
Yeah.
And I go, "But who wants to live their life in a bubble?" He goes, "Well, most people do."
Yeah.
And I'm trimming this tree, or we were taking it down. I don't remember what we were doing specifically. And it just hit me. I was like, that was just off the cuff answer, but I thought, yeah, it doesn't have to make sense if you don't think about it. And if nobody thinks about it, well, then it doesn't have to be efficient or make sense.
See, when I grew up, one of the things that I was taught at a very early age, Kentucky has a very famous saying, God is first, Kentucky is second. Love your country, but never trust a Fed. Okay.
That sounds like I've never heard that statement before. Well, but that sounds like Kentucky.
But politicians have, and over the years, when I've been in different organizations talking to them, they know I'm from Kentucky, and they'll repeat that to you. They know it. Okay. But what I'm saying is that I also was always taught, by what authority can you think you can do this? Because we were taught the Constitution. The Constitution is the law of the land.
Right.
All these regulations they make, you go in a lawyer's office, you see all them books, they're not law books. They're regulations. They're not really legal by the Constitution. That is one of the things that people don't understand. So when the government says you got to do something, they say, oh, I got to do this because the government said so.
Do you think that part of the reason, we talk about the political climate in America today, do you think part of the problem is a systemic problem that civics education is so low, civic intelligence, civic IQ? Was it Reagan who said we're
one generation away,
right?
And we've lost.
But we're one of the most wealthy countries in the world, and yet we don't even teach the young in our country our own system of economics. I think it's more than that. I don't remember. I was talking with an interview with somebody recently who's a little bit older than me, but grew up here in Dearborn County, and I asked him, "Do you remember did you ever have a civics class?" And he said, "I don't remember."
Yeah, I did.
But if he did, but even with that, even in a local level, because there's a difference between how Kentucky's county government is set up and Indiana.
Exactly.
So, do you think part of that has to do with just civic ignorance?
It's civic ignorance, and people are afraid to question anything. That's what.
Right.
I was taught to always question, ask questions, find out why you're doing this, and people say, "Why are you doing that? You're rocking the boat." I'm not rocking the boat. All I'm doing is asking a question. You're spending my money, or you're a good steward of my money. I want to know if you're a good steward or not. If you're in government, because it is our money. And it's amazing how many people don't look at it. They'll say, "Oh, that's government money." where does the government get their money?
Us.
Yeah. And so, for some reason we lost that. Now, when I was a kid, I paid income tax when I was 12 years old.
Really?
Yes. And when I went to
that's child abuse, Steve.
Yes, I agree.
You should see the U.S. government for that.
But I was so upset because I didn't get all my money back like they promised me when I was working for this place that took out taxes. I was upset. Like, where's my rest of my money? And the guy from H&R Block said, what are you talking about? And I said, this is how much money I should have. This is how much money they stole from me. That's how we were taught. They stole this money. He goes, oh, well, that's FICA. And I said, who is that? So I learned it early life. And what's interesting is some boys that grew up on my farm, when they got out in the real world, they had the same reaction I did to this stuff. So, but we don't learn this in school. We don't know history. No one understands, like you said, they don't understand our government. They don't understand the freedom we had. When I was doing work in Canada, they said, you guys are giving up freedoms every day. I said, I know, but how do you stop it? Because people don't get it.
Right.
And we do. Every time you let them pass a little regulation, then we're in trouble. So in the county, we got the same problem. Right now, look at Dearborn County. They decided that this whole county needs to be residential. Now, I don't live in a residential area. I live in a rural area.
You're out in Dillsboro?
I live in Dillsboro, out of Dillsboro. I live on the outskirts of Dillsboro. I live on Arlington Road, our famous road. But the thing is I moved out here for a reason. I want the country, and I have the city. Leave us country people alone. I won't even let water down the road. We don't have city water. We're one of few that don't. We have wells, we have cisterns.
Yeah. You probably have cleaner water than most people.
We do. And I don't have to worry about them dumping something in it. But the point I'm making to you is that why did they do this? They want
That's
control.
really not funny because that water is a big issue.
Well, it is. But the thing is this is the bottom line, is they want control. Well, why do you want to control my life like that? You don't. The only thing you have control over is if I'm breaking the law, if my house is on fire, if someone's sick in my house. That's all I need you for.
Yeah. So you've got how many
fix
kids?
the potholes, my role.
Fix the potholes. Give it character, right? I got my CDLs a couple years ago, and I see these memes pop up on social media that says, the government inspecting my truck, guys getting their CDLs.
Right.
And I got them before they changed the regulation that now you have to go through this big long class. I drove for a farmer, and that's how I learned to double clutch and etc. And so I never needed them, but then they changed this regulation, and I'm just going to go pay the $175, take the test. I went out to Baylor Trucking. They run a top-notch testing program out there. I was very happy, and but they make you go over the whole truck. You can't have a cracked blinker light on it or anything.
Oh yeah.
You got to document everything, and it's the government inspecting your truck, and it said me inspecting the road, and there's potholes everywhere.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. So how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
Okay. And they're all grown out of the house now?
Yeah, they're all grown out of the house.
So, but you have grandkids?
Yes, I have 6 grandkids.
Okay. What youngest, oldest, what ages are your grandkids?
Youngest is 11 and the oldest is just turned 18.
Okay. So with school age, still young kids.
Yeah, most of them are still in school.
What are the top 3 concerns or needs that you want to make sure are met for your kids, when your grandkids? And what role does government play in that?
Well, the biggest concern I have is they don't teach them basic arithmetic. Okay.
So your grandkids are all in public education?
Yes,
government education?
Yes. So they don't really teach them arithmetic right. In fact, my oldest grandson, when he was doing arithmetic and they were trying to do percentages, I don't know what in the world they had, but I showed him the simple way to do it with money, like I was taught. Dime is 10%, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And the teacher got all upset, and I went and said, what are you doing? This is how you learn. This is what you do, And so I teach my grandkids the right way to do things. Now, a lot of people think that's crazy. In my world, in hydraulic world, we do not call things inch and 2 inch. It's called 16, 32, 48, okay?
Right.
That's how they do it. If you don't understand how to make that in your head, 16's an inch. but they don't call it an inch, they call it 16. So if I say I need an 8, if nobody can do that, or they
That's a
can't
half
do
inch.
percentage, everything that we calculate is based on percentages, okay, how it works.
Right.
They can't do percentages. So we have to teach, when we hire young people in, we spend a lot of time teaching them math.
And how to do it in their head.
And it's not that hard of math. No, they can't even do it on paper. We have to teach them on paper
But they can
first.
probably pass a pre-cal test.
Greg, I don't want, let's see. Let's just say that we learned that some of the ones that come out of classes that are supposed to be the top in their class they can't even read a tape measure. They have no idea what a quarter is or a half is. I mean, I'm serious. It's sad. I laugh too. But I think all my public education money went in there, and this is all you can do. So the problem I see, and
You
what
know,
I want,
I was
my
told the
kid-
public, half of our property taxes typically goes to education.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's sad too is they quit doing cursive. Well, do you know how many older people like me still writing cursive?
Right.
And they can't. They have no idea what that is.
One of the challenges with cursive, my wife was an elementary education teacher. Well, she was going for elementary education, and when she was going through her teaching classes, the private Christian school she was at, was teaching cursive. And they talked about, the fundamentals, how it develops your brain, etc. But they said the real threat to our republic, if they throw out cursive, how are you going to read the original documents?
Exactly.
If you
And
can't
they
read
already threw it
cursive, you might as well have had the Constitution written in German,
Right.
or Dutch,
Right.
or French,
But
or
they already have. My grandkids, I didn't know this. I didn't know they weren't being taught it until one day when I was helping my grandson open a bank account. He can't sign his name, so I had to go back and teach him how to sign his name.
oh wow,
This is and we don't pay attention to it. I feel bad. I didn't pay attention to it, so I'm trying to make up for it. These are things that our local government should be doing, and they should be stopping this kind of stuff, in my opinion.
So, with different careers, different paths your life has taken. I'm sure you've interacted with lots of people, different
yeah.
industries, etc. I know the hydraulic world, it overlaps so many different networks of people, and as a business owner, I know for me, there's so many people that you meet along your journey of growing your business through the ups and downs, the economy. There's so many life lessons learned. Who is one of your greatest heroes in your life, or somebody who's had a tremendous impact that's taught you, a valuable life lesson that you still use today? And this could be from your childhood, your early years in business, your early years in the hydraulic business. You started your hydraulic business when you were in your 30s?
Yeah.
Okay, so early on in business, as a young business owner.
Probably some of the people that had some of the greatest effect on my life would have been my grandpa, because my grandpa was a very honest man, worked very hard. During the Depression, he actually walked to Newport from Holland Heights, and he'd stay down there and then walk home, for a couple $2 a week, and he was very honest man, and he had integrity, and I really admired that. I had another uncle that was it's the same way. He probably weighed 120 pounds, soaking wet. He had a birth defect when he was born. He couldn't go in the Army in the World War II because he couldn't do it.
Right.
But he made his life junking. He owned his own house, he owned his car, he owned everything. Junking. He'd go around on the garbage day, pick junk out of the things and junk it, and made his money that way. And I admired him for that, because he didn't go on welfare, he didn't go on any of that stuff, okay? Food stamps or anything. And other people that weren't my relatives, probably one of the first ones that really sticks in my mind is a man named Andy Fassler. Now, when I was a kid, there was a place called Andy's Glass, broken glass, called Andy's Glass.
Okay.
He owned it. And Andy was a very frugal man. The man was rich, but you'd never know it. He's like you and I, he works, okay? And I used to do work for him over there, and everybody always told me, that barn he had a beautiful horse barn. His wife loved horses. He built her a big, beautiful horse barn. And everybody told me, that barn's built out of old crates from glass. And I'm like, hell, there's no way. One day I was working it, and I got to looking at it, and they were right. All the siding and most of the main beams were from crate lumber.
Wow.
So, and then another gentleman that was one of my first, I would say, jobs besides driving dump trucks and stuff. was a place called Jose's and Henry Jose. And Henry Jose, I don't know, sometimes I look back and I think he took me under his wing, you know, because he'd come out and he'd make me sit in his brand new Cadillac, full greasy pants. I didn't want to get in it. And we'd sit there and talk about all kinds of things. I learned a lot of life lessons from him.
Okay. Does any of that affect you today as far as, do you have people, or maybe the climate in America has changed so much where, I don't know this for a fact because I haven't lived long enough, but I've heard from older, wiser generations, you know, the problem with grandkids and grandparents today is there's just rifts. You know, it used to be 50 years ago, grandparents and grandkids were closer.
Oh yeah.
Families were tighter. And that generational, it's like you send your kids off to Caesar and they come home Romans and you don't even know who your kids are.
Right.
And I'm not blaming the education system. I think that's just, I don't know where the specific blame is. I'm sure there's a lot of different things that affect that. But have you been able to mentor on or have other situations where you've been able to take younger people under your wing over the years and teach them a valuable lesson? If so, what were some of those life lessons?
Yeah, I believe so. There's in my life, I feel I've helped raise several people, and
through your business or church?
No,
or what?
through my farm.
Okay.
That were trouble kids, and in fact, it was kind of interesting. A lot of them, when they would graduate from high school, their mom would come up to me and just thank me so much for getting them through it, and you know, and it's you're at first you're just like that, you know, but
Yeah.
I kind of know what they mean now. And then some of the kids come back and we talk all the time, and you know, they laugh about how I was really strict with them and hard on them, because I had some set rules. You were on my place, you better not be doing drugs. You better never let me catch you doing drugs. You'll pray to police get here before I catch you. You know, and they knew it. And what it was is a lot of the kids were getting in trouble with drugs, and they'd start staying with me. And I mean, they'd stay for months and with me, and they got off of it, you know. But they told them, don't bring them here. I have no tolerance for drugs, and there's a lot of reasons for it when I grew up. I grew up in the wrong generation of that.
Okay.
But the thing is that what you're saying is yeah, I still try to get people to understand, you know, what life's all about. And you know, I tell them all the time, God's first. You got to learn who the Lord is. Okay.
Right.
Now I will be the first to tell you I wasn't a good Christian for most of my life because I didn't understand.
Right.
But once I started to understand it, then I feel like I changed.
So here's an interesting question I always like asking people who are getting involved in government. We have a balance of powers. We don't have a kingdom. Not one person's in charge. But if you walked into a factory and you're changing out a hydraulic press or something, you find a little lamp, okay? And you find a genie in that lamp. And I know you and I don't believe in genies, but if you found a genie and you got one wish, and there was a law, whether it's state, county, federal, whatever, that you could either implement or repeal, something that you could single-handedly change, which that doesn't exist. No one person in the United States of America has the power to do that. From county government all the way up to the executive or judicial or legislative branches on our federal government. But if you had a genie that could grant you that one wish, what would that wish be?
My one wish is, if it was countrywide, would be that we actually start going back and understanding we are a republic, a nation of laws, and we follow the Constitution. That is the law. One of the things in the Bible, when I first started reading it, people were talking about, oh, you got to follow the law. I said, hold on. What is the law of the land? No one knows. The law of the land is the Constitution. If
Right.
it goes against the Constitution, it's not a law.
Right.
And that would be, I can't say.
So mandatory
It was
civics
mandatory.
education, Constitution
we have
education?
to, my ideal of a perfect country would be we understood we are a republic. Everybody is under the same law.
Right.
You don't get special privilege because you're president or a senator or a congressman. We all get the same treatment,
Right.
period.
How do you, if elected, how do you plan on staying? You have a full schedule, you got a full life, etc. How do you plan on staying connected with constituents?
I want to actually make sure they got my phone number. I made a pledge when I started this in a meeting at the Republican party, actually, I've told everybody, if I see them doing things in the dark, like we are going through now, I will take out full page ads of my own money and let people know. One of the things I'm finding out is that we don't know what's going on, and I want it to be made known what's going on. You know, most people have no idea we added on to the courthouse and how much that costs. It is amazing. Now, I understand if I live in Lawrenceburg, you know that, but you don't know that out in the county. Most people don't know they passed the ruling with our, whatever they call that group, that they want to make all Dearborn County residential. When I talk to farmers about that, they kind of laugh at it, and so I tell them, you're going to lose your right to farm. Within 5 years, once they change your property, you better change it back. And they're going to talk to lawyers and find out I'm right. Because you can't, I don't want this stuff to happen to you. I mean, how many times all of a sudden they say,
you wait till you have a problem and it's too late.
How many times do we find out that they changed something and we didn't know it? You know? And that's what's concerning to me. That's wrong.
Right.
They should have to tell you that, hey.
Well, I'll make this commitment. If you're elected and you ever want to come on and do a podcast, I'll do a podcast with you anytime, talk about any issue,
Right.
ask questions.
Well,
if you want to have a forum or a group and you want me to moderate, I'm willing to do that.
Believe it or not, that was one of
Everybody
my things.
talks about transparency, but you have to make commitments
Right.
that are systemically transparent. You got to have a accessibility to transparency, and you got to have a system where that does. It's not just a pledge. It's not just whatever else. And so
I agree.
I appreciate you making that pledge.
And I actually, truthfully, believe it or not, your website, Uncle Sam, you know, for Dearborn, Indiana, that is a good site, and that
My Facebook page, Uncle
yeah,
Sam.
your Facebook
Okay,
page, and this here.
My website is freedomfather.org, so
Okay.
I got confused. For a
Yeah, I'm
second.
sorry. But
Facebook page,
your
Uncle Sam
Facebook
Fernandez,
page
yeah.
and everything, and so if we get more and more people to understand that, and you know, we could take out a couple. I could take out a couple radio ads without a problem, and say, hey, you know, go to this, and I got it all laid out, because it's hard to do it. Some of the things going on, it's hard to speak in a minute thing, but here, it's all here. It's all written out.
Right. Okay. In your opinion, what kind of person, character traits, etc., what kind of person makes a good fit in local government?
In my opinion, it's someone that is not thinking of going into it for the power. They're in it because they're concerned about what's going on.
Okay.
They need to be able to talk to the people, listen to the people, understand what it is, the different needs. Now, we have a very diverse county, which makes us unique. You know, the people in Lawrenceburg have something different they need than what I need over on Arlington Road. And these are things that we seem to have lost somewhere along the line. We need people who will listen to the people and not try to dictate to the people. And I've been seeing a lot of this dictation to the people, whether you want it or not.
What are the top 3 issues you care about? Do those go back to fire, EMS? Did you already answer that question? Fire, EMS, police,
Right.
roads. Those are the big
Yeah,
things.
and what we're talking about, just a quick thing that's really one of the things that was the catalyst that kind of got me looking. In Dillsboro, now Dillsboro's a small little area, okay? And several years ago, they spent a whole lot of money and put a turn in so we could turn in without being out in the lane. It's a joke. We always say, oh, it's a good thing we got that lane. There's no cars around, but we get in that little lane and turn. Well, now, in someone's infinite wisdom, they're going to put in these J-turns. And that means now, instead of just going across the road and turn left to go west to work, I have to now go east. I don't know how far down the road yet, then cut across 2 lanes of traffic, and then cut across the medium, and then cut left. And no one can tell me why, except Mr. Maxwell, when he got in, and I asked him about it, and he said he didn't even know what was happening. No one seems to know about it. And he sends me all the information. He said they had a 15-year study, and there's all these wrecks, and there's all these deaths. In 15 years, we had 1 death, and I found out that death was a man was going east. He slowed down his motorcycle to turn right, and somebody ran into him. That J-turn has nothing to do with it. So, yes, and you know, and
Government's infinite intelligence.
County council people tell me that's not our money. I said, it is your money. It is
It's
our
all
money.
our money.
And you could have stopped it, because if the state should have took that money and put it on Route 56. Have you ever drove down Route 56? Yeah. Most of our business is not in Indiana. It's in other states. We're in Kentucky a lot because of North American Stainless, okay?
Nice, right?
There's only one way for me to get there with my trailer, and that's through Madison, because I can't go down 56 because it's so bad.
Wow.
It rocks the truck so bad.
Yeah.
And truckers will tell you they can't drive up and down that road. $2.5 million would go, really help that road a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Wrapping up here. This time last year, did you ever think you'd be running for county council?
No, never.
What's the change?
When you and I talked, and you tell me that we need to look at getting a precinct, because again, I didn't understand the precinct, and you come out and explain it to me.
I never did until I ran in that Senate election.
And then when I found out Clay 3, I'm in Clay 3, never had a precinct guy except for who they appoint when they.
I don't know if they've never had, but they.
Well,
they
no,
were at that time.
I looked
That's
into it a little
information.
bit. It doesn't seem like we've ever had. I won't say never, ever, but.
Your recent history,
right.
Nothing.
So. I said, yeah, I agree with you. I need to do that. And you kept talking about running for council. So when I was down at the courthouse, basically, when I was signing up to be the precinct man, I asked him about being council or commissioner of council. And the lady says, oh, well, your commissioner is not running this time, and neither is your councilman. I said, okay, that's cool. And then I started listening. She goes, oh, wait a minute. She goes, you can run for county at large. I said, what's county at large? So she explained it to me. I said, really? So that would be someone that looks at the whole county. I said, I like that idea. And, you'd already kind of put that bug in my head. And I said, well, yeah, let me try it. And so that's where I got it. Well, then when I started looking into it and seeing what is going on, I became very serious, because I've been to a couple council meetings and they don't seem to really care about the money. To be honest with you, Dennis.
Were the council meetings well attended? I don't think I've ever been to a
No.
county council meeting.
No.
When are they even held?
They're held in the same place the commissioner
No,
meetings.
when?
Oh, I got the schedule. It's not even once a month. I don't even think they have
Are they
one.
during the day, evenings?
In the evening.
Okay.
That's a good thing about it. But they need to be later in the evening than what they are. And that's one thing I think we ought to change, so people
Why?
can. Well, 5 o'clock's not a good time. 6
5
o'clock's
o'clock's
not a
not the
good
evening.
time.
5 o'clock's the
Yeah,
end of the
I
day.
mean, you really should have them 7 o'clock, so people get time to get home, change, whatever they need to
Right.
do.
If traffic's bad, you still got time.
Right. But, yeah, basically when I saw that there's only 2 people on the council that really questioned the money being spent, Glenn Wright being one of them, and Dennis, the surveyor man, I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but
I'm not sure what county.
But he is, they're the only 2 that everything that came up, they would question what it's for, and everybody else is like, let's just get this done. And I'm like, wait a minute, man, I'd like to know what it's for. So that's what I decided I really need to be serious and get people to understand what's going on in our government, and so there's some other things that come out of that, as you know, and it's really getting kind of wild when you find out that they really don't care about most of the people. It's a power
Do you
thing.
wish you would have gotten involved 20 years ago?
I do.
Really?
I really do. I very seldom regret things. I do regret that I didn't pay more attention. I like you and I talked about in the beginning. I was worried about the feds, okay, because it just seems like the feds are just dumping on us.
It's all we hear about in the news.
Yeah, and they're dumping on us so bad, and they're always doing things. And the state gets out of control a lot. They have some things that really need to be repealed quickly. And I didn't really pay attention to the local so much. I always was under the impression that our taxes was determined by the state, which I think they are. But part of it is when our county spends a lot of money they shouldn't be spending, our taxes are part of that.
So if I were to ask you, and we'll kind of wrap up here, but if I were to ask you your assessment of the political climate in America, our state, county, etc., a year ago, what would your answer have been, and has that answer or your opinion changed in the last year?
A year ago, maybe a little longer than a year ago, we were a very divided country, but I don't think we were as divided as everybody thought. And the reason I say that is I think the news media has a lot to do with people's opinion from what talking. I talk to a lot of people, as you know, and I talk to people across all walks of life. And when you're in a factory,
in different states, yeah, it's
yeah. When you're in a factory, you get, I mean, sometimes I got 10 guys working with me, and we get to talking. Today, I think most people are waking up. We have a problem. We have a big problem in this country, and the problem is that we're letting the government go too much to communism.
Right.
If you want to call it that, a dictatorship, or a democracy as they want it to be.
Right.
And the more and more people that we educate and get to understand that we are a republic, it has changed the way they think. And again, I don't know why people don't question things. That's one of the things that blow my mind. Just what little I've been involved recently in our local politics.
Sure.
They don't like me asking questions.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's unreal. When I ask a question, they'll just stand there, and finally, one of them will say, well, what point are you trying to make? Well, I've been asking you a question, that's the point I've been trying to make.
So you legitimately don't understand you're coming up asking a question and you can't get answers, or you're getting
No, I
criticized
can't
for
get
questions?
answers. Yeah, they don't want to answer, they get mad at you, and
It's not like you have some hidden agenda that when you first
No.
started asking questions, you've done all this research.
Yeah.
You work 60-something hours a week. You just
60? Man, I wish I already worked 60. I work 7 days a week. The only reason I don't work Sunday anymore is because I dedicated my life to the Lord.
Okay.
I used to work 7 days a week. Sundays are my best days. I make more money on Sunday than I make any day. We get good money on Sundays, but the only time I will work on a Sunday is if the factory's so down that they can't run Monday if I don't fix it, because I feel like Durox is in the ditch, but I still don't miss service. If I have to stop and go, they know that.
All right.
Okay, so the thing that is so interesting to me is that when you ask simple little questions, they don't want to answer. And I feel like you're hiding things.
Well, in your defense, your line of work, you go into a factory, the number one thing when you do is you start asking questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're trying to troubleshoot, find solutions. I mean, that's the character of how, a brain like yours works. I mean, it's the same thing with me when I pull up to a customer's house and they ask me what they should do. When I was doing a landscape design or something else, the first thing I do is go, what do you want? And then sometimes people will look at me like, well, you're the professional. And I'm going, well, I know, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to get things done. There's more than one way to find a good solution. And a good solution for one customer may not be the same solution for the other based on what do they want. I got to ask questions. I'm not trying to be, run an interrogation with my customer.
Right.
But, I'm on a time clock. I've got a full schedule, and I have a habit of talking too quick. Oh, Diamond, you knocked it over, bud. Let's see here. We're still rolling.
Oh, we're good.
That was the doggy. Let me see here.
You should have put him in doggy jail.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh boy. That's what happens when you have 100-pound something dogs that run the house.
Yeah, that's all right then.
Well, we're still rolling. Let's finish this up real quick though. All right.
Well, the big thing is in life, and you're right. I go in. I talk mostly to the maintenance guys, the people, the operators. What's it doing? What do you need it to do? I get the whole feel. One of the things I feel I'm really good at, and I am good at, I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back, but we're one of the few left in the country to do what I do, and that's a fact. Most of my customers are scared to death. What are you gonna do when you retire? I say, heck, I already retired. I just ain't quit yet. And they're scared to death because they don't know. I mean, and we are known for keeping plants running. And that's, I look at things differently than most people. People, I'll give you a quick example. We had a machine the other day that had a block that was broke. Everybody's like, oh, you can't get the block for 48 weeks. So I looked at it and said, I'll get fixed tomorrow. And I took a piece of plate and I made things, and it works better than the block did.
Wow.
And we do that all the time. I mean, that's our expertise. That's what we can do. And I look at the same thing I'm seeing in the county. there's things that should have been rectified 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, and I didn't know this was a problem. And they start telling me, oh, this has been a problem for years and years. I said, you've been on the government this long. Why didn't you fix it? This is all you got to do. It's not that hard, and it's mind-boggling. And I think that's why I really believe people shouldn't be in office that long. I used to be against term limits, and I kind of still am, because you get good people that are not in there for the power. But maybe it should be simple term limits where if you're a congressman, you serve 2 terms, you got to sit out a term.
Right.
A senator, 1 term, you got to sit out a term.
Right. Because
that would give you time to go home and see what you did to us. I look at what the government does to me, not what they do for me. So
that's a good way of looking at things.
And so it's the same thing here. Our county, I didn't realize this, and I should have. Our county government is the same people. It's been there for a long time.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either until I started looking into it, and I'm thinking, no wonder we're all messed up. They are on a mindset. I mean, I'm trying to be nice, but basically they don't look at the big picture. They say, oh, okay, well, if we put $100,000 here, that'll fix that. No, in my world, we don't look at this fixing the symptom. We look at fixing the problem.
Right. They're
fixing a symptom, not a problem. And I teach that, and when I taught for 20, I still teach it some, hydraulics. The very first thing in my class, anybody will tell you that's ever had me, is I tell you, oh, you changed the pump, did you fix the problem? Oh yeah, no you didn't. You fixed the symptom. What caused that pump to fail?
Right.
And that's what we need in government. And as I told some farmers the other day I was talking to, that was beautiful, you'd loved it. One guy's 80-something years old. It's been in his family for 4 generations. He's really upset about this, wanting to turn it into a residential place.
Right, the zoning issue.
And so he said, son, I love when they call me son. Son.
Makes you feel like a young man.
Yeah. Now, do you really think people are bad when they go into government, or they just get bad? And I said, thought for a second, I said, politicians are kind of like an oil filter. You put a new oil filter on that tractor, buddy, it cleans it up and everything's going real good. But what happens when it gets dirty? Starts causing problems.
Yeah.
That's why we change oil filters. That's why we got to change politicians. And he laughed, he goes, and they all laughed, they go, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I've never
We need to change it.
That's good.
And I told him, I said, I promise you, I ain't gonna be in there that long. It's not gonna happen. But I said, that is what's wrong, is you got the people that their mindset doesn't change. They've done something. It's kind of a deer. A great example is a deer. Deer runs across the highway all the time, never gets hit, right? Because he did it so many times, he didn't get hit, but one day he gets smacked with a car because he wasn't quick enough. Well, it's the same thing with politicians. They've done it this way forever. It doesn't really hold up. Yeah. In a meeting, I kind of made a comment to the person that's getting the quotes for the blacktop for this new sidewalk. And I just made a comment. I said, did you ever think about concrete? Oh, concrete's too expensive. I said, is it? Concrete will last at least 30 years. How long does blacktop last? And he kind of went like that. I said, seriously, concrete will last you 30 years. And when it starts crumbling, you can blacktop it. Blacktop, you have to tear it all back out again. He says, man, I never thought about that. Why?
Right.
And I'm sure you see the same thing in your business. It's just things.
So that's where we make up our competitive edge, is where the normal business that's my competitor just does stuff a certain way, and I find a better way of doing it. So when I think about government growing, improving, getting healthier, I'm looking at where is the normal, the substandard, and how do we get creative to just get that competitive edge of thinking about things differently. But sometimes it's, we got some equipment that's broken down or something, like when I came out to you with my bucket truck. What's wrong? I have no idea. One of your guys started working on it, or you started working on it, and either you brought somebody else in to just look at things and think about things a little bit differently, or somebody else was helping, they brought you in. Because sometimes you've been staring at a problem for so long, you can't see the forest through the trees. And you just need, not that one of you was bad, you're both very good, but you just need another fresh set of perspective.
And I agree with you 100%, and that's the whole thing. I mean, and to give you my idea of a business sense is, what I wanted was to have one of everything, which you can't, but I wanted to make sure I had it. And when people come to us now, because they know we have it, you know, we get customers from Louisville that have excavating business because we have the fittings in stock. Parker used to call me wanting to know why I was buying these certain fittings because nobody stocks them. I said, because I sell them, because people know I have them. We have directional valves on our shelf that no one stocks. It takes 2 to 3 weeks to get them. When you are down in a factory running, they don't want to hear 2 or 3 weeks. They want to know how many minutes before you get that up and running.
Right.
So, and it's the same thing in our government. They don't think farsighted. And I could tell you some horror stories with the state garage that was so stupid. You know, we had to deal with them for a while. We just put hoses up there so they didn't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because I'll be honest with you, I charge dearly. You wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And they know it. So we made a deal. We'll put them in there. You don't have to pay for them until you use them. Or in the spring, whatever's left, you pay for it. Worked out great. One day, a new regime came in and the bean counter said, oh, we can't do that. I said, would you pay me one time in the morning? You bought 5 hoses. You know, but.
Yeah.
So that's what bothers me is the lack of thinking. So maybe we can change that.
Maybe we can. Well, so I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen, or I appreciate you taking the time to share. Whoever listens gets the benefit of that.
Yeah.
And I apologize for the direction here. We're a makeshift studio here, and my 160-pound dog came in and laid down on the bed, and the extension cord was running across it. And now we got a jacked up camera thing.
And really, if you just let the dog alone, the dog would have just been here and been happy as could be and be petted. But no.
Anyway, well, Steve, thanks so much for taking the time, and appreciate you stepping up and being an option for people to vote for this spring.
Well, hopefully it works out.
There we go.
Thank you.